If this is your first time joining me, welcome. I'm thrilled to be spending the next hour and a half together. We have people joining us from all over the world, believe it or not. I know Tony Robbins, but we have people joining us from all over the world. I see some faces that I know and love, and thank you for being here. And so let's get right in and started. You are here at the Lead Gen Masterclass, and this is your workbook. Why you are here today is because you have, in some fashion, discovered that either you would like to make more money in your business or that your positioning or messaging is not serving you, and you wanted to explore what this workshop is about, because this workshop is all about your positioning, your messaging, and then we're going to work on some elevator pitches. Now, how did I get into the world of messaging, elevator pitches, and all those things? Well, I started work. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you in the corporate world? Let's see. Corporate world, corporate people. Yeah, lots of you, right? Oh, we have a huge number of you. And yeah, so for those of you who are just joining us, please go ahead and turn on your camera and your sound. Well, you don't have to turn on your sound until you want to say something, but I am so grateful that you guys are all here. This is a huge crowd. Okay. So, corporate world, I was there for 18 years, and basically I spent 18 years rejecting people, not because I was not a nice person. I always joke and say, I'm Canadian, but because I worked for these amazing brands like Pepsi, Pizza Hut, and Frito-Lay, and I worked for an agency for them. I actually worked at those companies, and they were sexy. Everybody kept selling to me, and they kept selling and selling and there were very, very lots of reasons why we couldn't say yes to them, to working with them, because one, a lot of what they offered we already had, and two, they were not differentiated, and three, they weren't very clear on what they did and what they offered and why I should even give them a meeting. So then for the last 9 years, I started a company where I now teach companies how to sell to those corporations. So I am really, really excited to be joined here by all of you today. I'm going to be teaching you all the things that I learned when I was marketing those giant brands. But since what I've learned to do in the last 9 years is to bring it down to our size of business so that we can sell to other businesses and even larger corporations. So that's what this is here to do today. So how many of you have already downloaded the workbook? Can you show me? Yeah, show me a show of hands. Very good. Now, I want you to do something that we neglected to do, and I want you to go ahead and number them. So I want you to don't number this page, that's the cover. I want you to go ahead and number every single page. So the first one, number two, number three, number four, number five. That's all that you should have 5 pages. Okay, you guys? Now that's just to keep us all on the same page, but I will give you references. Normally we would have done that, but we skipped that step. So we apologize for that. But I'm going to teach you how to reframe, reposition, and remessage what you're already doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to get you guys to actually do it on the spot with me. And then I'm going to help you to polish that pitch and polish that positioning. And we're going to brainstorm a positioning for all the people who want to put up their hands and talk about their business. And not only are you going to get exposure to all the people that are on this call, but you're also going to get an idea of what positioning that your business can have. Now, how many of you have already seen me do repositioning live in some form or shape? How many of you have seen me do polishing a pitch? Okay, so not everyone. So let me see. Keep your hands up. So I want to look at the others. Yes, hello, hello, hello. I see so many good faces here. And a lot of people haven't turned on their cameras, but I'm hoping that you guys will, and that you will put up your hands and that you'll join us. Okay, so let me tell you what this repositioning business means. A client that I had in IT, and IT is one of these companies that used to come up to us all the time and try to sell their services. And it was very hard to say yes to even a meeting with them, because we already had IT. We already had all the things that we needed. But what we did for this company is we developed a positioning and a super niche that made them $805,000 extra incrementally within a couple of months. How did we do that? That's what I'm going to teach you here today. We developed a super niche positioning for them. We found out that in the market, there was a gap in healthcare that said that there were people who are waiting for too long on hold when they're calling the call centers in healthcare. So we sub-branded a division called On Hold Rescue for them. And On Hold Rescue, we put a little logo together with, and if you're old, you know what this means, with a call center operator, because apparently the kids today, they don't understand what this means, because the phones are like this instead. And so On Hold Rescue made $805,000 in a couple of months, cross-selling to an existing client. That's what's available for you. I want to show you how the step-by-step of how I break it down for my clients and how I teach them how to reposition their messaging and their communication strategy. Okay, so let's start with the first page of your workbook, which is building the marketing strategy. There are 4 pillars of your elevator pitch. So Crystal, if you could write them down as well, you're so good at this while you're like multitasking and letting more people in. So the first pillar is find your most profitable target. It's all about targeting. Anything in marketing is about targeting. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to show you how to. And by the way, forgive me because my nose is running. And it's not because I have COVID, but because we haven't gotten our shots in Canada. I haven't gotten my shot yet. I don't know if any other Canadians on the screen have gotten theirs. So the second pillar, so the first pillar is finding your most profitable target. The second pillar is picking your sweet spot specialty. I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. The third pillar is the elevator pitch formula. And that's I'm going to give you the elevator pitch formula, and you guys are going to have 2 minutes where you put your elevator pitch together, and then you're going to, if I'm going to ask for your permission to polish it, and then we'll go straight into that. And throughout this whole thing, you guys, I want it to be interactive, which is why I asked you to turn on your cameras, because I'm going to, with each different section, I want to talk to volunteers about their business and specifically how it applies to their business. Because if I've learned anything in the 9 years that I've been doing this, it's all about interactive. It's all about experiential learning. And me talking here, blah, 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 doesn't teach you at all. But you watching me help somebody is absolutely going to help you way more. So the last pillar of the 4 pillars is using your pitch to land meetings. And the most differentiated elevator pitch is super niched. Okay. So I can't really see if Crystal, you're writing them, right? I can't see. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So that was section number 1. Section number 2 is, or the section below is, you find your super niche by picking a very specific target. And number 2 is a very specific pain point to specialize in, which this provides. And you know what, you guys, if you don't learn by writing, you don't have to write all this. But if you want to, Crystal will give you the answers anyway. You could just sit back and listen if you want to. So what does having a very specific target and a very specific problem, a pain point for them, give you? Is it gives you a focus to aim your pitch at. It gives you relevance for your prospect, and it gives you a differentiator in the industry. All the things that these guys were trying to sell to me didn't have. So that's what I want for you. All right, so next, let's move on to the next section, which is we score all industries and interest groups in 3 ways on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. So it's the first way we score them is fit for you, for your skill set, for your background, for your personality and your culture. The second is the ability to pay your fees. And the third is access to check signers. So when I say an industry, you guys, I want you to know that to me, an industry must have a governing body and an organization as an association. It should have events. It should have LinkedIn groups. It should have publications and it should have chapters. Okay. So I am just like burning through that because I actually want to talk to some humans right now. So the post in the chat about your scoring exercise results. And what I'd like is a volunteer to take you through the exercise together. So what I'd like is for you guys to work on, I want you to pick an industry that you'd like to double your business in. Okay. So pick an industry that you want to double your business in, and then we will score it together. Yeah. Are there any volunteers? So put up your hand, and there's a way to put up your hand. Oh, David's already. So I'm not going to call out. Yeah, there's a way. So there's a way to put up your hand through the reactions button at the bottom. You can raise a hand, you can give me a clap, or you can give me a thumbs up or love or whatever else you want to give me. They don't have rude gestures, thank God. All right, so yeah, so Crystal, who wants to volunteer? Eight already raised their hand, but who did it first? I only saw the first screen and I only saw David, but Crystal,
yeah. David Philpott, please.
Okay.
You're fading out.
Oh, is it better now? It's nice. Yes. You know what it was? I put the papers on the speaker, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. All right, David, go for it. So give me the industry that you'd like to double your business in.
Yes, industry is well-funded technology companies that have gone past their Series A funding.
Okay, so do those kind of technology companies, do they self-gather? So let's do the check. You remember the checklist that I gave you. Do they have governing body?
They have associations.
Perfect. Do they have events?
They do have events.
Do they have LinkedIn groups?
Yes.
Do they have publications?
Yes.
Do they have chapters?
I don't know about chapters.
Okay, you'll have to look into that. All right.
I don't think they have chapters.
Okay. So I would love it if you could niche down into an industry that actually has chapters, because you know what chapters give you?
Mm-hmm.
An opportunity to network weekly or monthly, actually monthly probably, right? So think about that. But
I'll give you the other niche, Society of Human Resource Professionals. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So human resource, I'm glad you said that. A lot of people want to target human resources, but I like to target by industry and not by function. So right. Human resources or
that's why technology.
Okay, so let's stick to the technology, David. All right. So let's do the scoring exercise. On a score of 1 to 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best fit, what is the fit for you, your background, your skill set, your experience, your personality, and your love for
10. 10.
It's a 10? Okay. Now, what is the dollar potential? So let's say, how much money do you want to make per one client, per one tech client per year?
Oh, I can make $100,000 at least.
Right. Okay. So what is the likelihood on a scale of 1 to 10 to make 100 grand with a tech company selling what you sell?
10.
10? Okay, perfect. Now, what is the, how would you rate your access to decision makers who would buy what you're selling on a scale of 1 to 10?
10. Because I use artificial intelligence to uncover contacts.
Yes, but what is your personal network or ability to reach them? And it doesn't have to be just personal network, but it could be through other networks too. Just your basic ability to reach them. Is it 10?
Yeah.
That would be a 30. So what we do with clients, and what I want you to do, everyone, is I want you to take that list of industry name and write down as many industries and interest groups as you can, and then score it, and then total the scores and see which ones pop out the best. Now, you know that this is not scientific. This is back of the envelope stuff. This is gut, but we have to start somewhere. This is the beginning of our research. let's do it with one more person. Who wants to go? Crystal?
Yeah, the next one I have is Mary Susan Milbourne.
Okay, Mary. All right. So tell me, what is the industry you'd like to double in?
Well, that's a good question, Charla. Where I really like to focus my efforts at the moment is women-owned businesses, but it's definitely an interest group. But would you consider that to be an industry?
I would, because that's who I target. That's my.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say WBEs. That's women business enterprises.
Mhm.
And what is the fit for you? Your skill set, background, culture.
I think it's a 10.
Perfect. And then what is the dollar potential for these guys to pay you what you want? Like how David said he wanted 100K. How much do you want one client to pay per year?
Per year. So I would say ideally 50 to 75,000
Great.
a year.
Perfect.
That wouldn't necessarily be one project, but over the course of a year.
Right. So then what is the likelihood of them doing that on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I'm going to have to totally guess and say maybe an 8 or 9, depending. You know, a lot of the women businesses are solopreneurs, and that's definitely not our target. But there's a whole slew of women entrepreneurs who have much larger businesses. And
Exactly.
That's
why I agree with you that it would be an 8.
okay.
So then, but that's just me. But you guys, you do this all on your own gut.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is access to decision maker. How many of your personal contacts and how easily is it for you to reach out to the decision makers amongst those WBEs?
I would say it's an 8 or a 9. You know, there's a lot of great networking going along.
Okay, great. So if I give it an 8 and you had a 10 and an 8 and 8, that was a 26. So again, you guys, what I want you to do is I want you to list blue sky, all the different industries and interest groups, and then I want you to add them up. And then I want you to take the top 3 industries, and then that's what we're going to pursue. For the moment, I want you to take the top one. Crystal, could you let me know if there's any questions? I see one there, but I'll let you direct that. So there's one there, so I'll.
Yep, it's the only one we've got so far. So if you like to read it, or do you want me to read it out?
So Tracy, I'll read it. Thank you. You're targeting companies by size, not industry. So in other words, only companies with revenues of 1 million. Is this effective? No, because Tracy, they don't hang out by revenue. In fact, most of them don't even tell you their revenue. Now, the only place they hang out by revenue is the CEO groups like EO. You have to have $1 million or WPO, or do you know what I mean? Like most people, most humans only gather by industry or interest group. So if you're selling B2C, for example, even if you're selling B2B, the interest group for me is diversity. So I've spoken at every diversity conference, like MBEs, WBEs, LGBT, every diversity. That's like, I'm their go-to elevator pitch person. And I have been speaking at their conferences for years because I've made them my target. But yeah, unfortunately, people don't gather by age or by income. And if somebody knows any differently, please let me know. So, okay, I'm moving on. And you know what, you guys, this is normally a 9-day a seminar. So I'm actually like making it really, really condensed. But the best part is going to be where we're going to be polishing your pitch. So I'm going to try to get to that as soon as I can. But I need to lay down the groundwork so you guys understand. Okay. So the next piece is after this one. It's section 2 is pick your sweet spot specialty. So how you pick your sweet spot specialty is your specialty needs to be about one super niche. And sorry, your specialty needs to be about one facet of your target perspective's pain, because 70% of humans purchase based on pain. I always say no pain, no sale. And if you're not using the human leverage of pain in your messaging, you're letting go of a psychological need that humans have to continually seek their surroundings for danger. It's in their DNA to look for danger. So if the moment you open your mouth with the way you introduce yourself, which is your elevator pitch, that you capture their, something that is dangerous to them or something that is important and relevant to them. I'm sorry about my nose. And if you're not doing that, you're not leveraging that psychological need that they have to seek out and eliminate the pain in their surroundings. So 70% of humans purchase based on pain and 30% buy based on improving something. And here's the thing that kills me. I've been on so many podcasts that I've guested and hosted. And this is the one thing that I try to convey is the most dangerous way to figure out your target prospect's pain is to guess it. Because I have seen so many businesses fail. I've seen so many business ideas fail, especially in the startup and tech and all that, is because they're guessing at the pain. If they one day had that pain, they think, oh, let's make a company about it. Let's make a product about it. Maybe everybody else has that pain. Well, sometimes they don't. And sometimes they're not willing to pay for that pain, what you hope that they would pay for that pain. Okay. All right. So the next section is, 3 ways. So on your own, I wanted you to think about what are the top 3 assumed pain points of your target. And there's 3 ways to find your target pain. So the one way is you ask them. This is what we do with clients. I train them. We create a questionnaire and we train them on how to go and ask people that they know. And this is not necessarily existing clients, because you would only survey existing clients for retention unless you're cross-selling a completely new service or product. But what I want is for you to go out into the market and find out for the market. So you find out by asking. The second is you can Google it. And the third is to ask their customers and suppliers. So what I value above anybody else is the prospect. The prospect conversation about their pain is the most relevant to me. So out of all these things, now I've met lots and lots and lots of marketing gurus who just tell you. In fact, I hired one myself and it was disastrous and it was terribly expensive. And what she did is she Googled it. She sat there behind her computer and she Googled it and told me what niche I should have and what the industry was and what the pain should be. And guess what, you guys? It was wrong. And it was a big, expensive, giant, fat mistake. So I never make that mistake. You know why? Because the market never lies. The market never tells us the wrong thing. You could maybe ask the wrong people, but we do the work to try to figure out who the right people are. And then based on our conversations, I hope you don't see my nose running. But anyway, based on my conversations, based on your conversations with the market, you're going to find out. You're actually going to find out where the pain is and whether they're the wrong customer for you in the first place, because that's part of all the things that we ask them and find out. Now, on your own, what are the top 3 assumed pain points of your target? And I'd love to have some volunteers for this one. So I'd like you to name who the industry is that you'd like to double your business in. And then I'd like you to guess at 3 really expensive problems that you can solve for them. Okay. So who wants to put their, and by the way, if you have your hands up from last time, we won't know, we'll still call on you. So Crystal, who's next?
All right, I'm going to go with still who has their hand up then. Mitzi, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So my customer they're marketing research insights companies, mid to large size growing companies focused primarily on technology. And their pain points are, number one, they're focused on technology. So they're not strong research people and they're not serving their customers in the way that they could be. And so the pain point there is, number one, winning business and being strong client advisors. And number 2, retaining that business with strong deliverables with impact.
Okay, I like it, Mitzi. So I like the one is winning business, and that is a huge issue, right? If there's no new business, there's no money. The second, I'm less clear about that they're not a client advisor. Is what does that cause that they can't advise their clients properly?
It causes them, number one, not to get as many contracts as they could because they're selling more widgets than they are solving problems. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
So they're not upselling to existing clients?
Yeah, yes, that's a great way to say. They're not upselling. And then the second one is they don't necessarily know how to deliver because a lot of these are more platform driven. So in other words, rather than giving a presentation with some consultation, they're just literally handing over a dashboard. And so they really need to be able to have strong customer advisors that can help them interpret what that, translate that data into insights that they can take action on.
Great. So if I can use this as a training moment, these are great because the reason, I mean, we could talk about the last one, because what I want you to think about what is the problem that costs money, right? So for example, stress doesn't cost money. The losing people because of stress and having to replace them costs money. So in your case, Mitzi, of the 3 problems that you've identified, what is the most expensive one that costs a lot of money?
Whoa, it's hard for me to determine between, I think I'd have to have a customer conversation to understand whether it's the upsell that they're losing money on, or whether it's the actual deliverable and retention of those customers.
So you know what, you guys, I love that you said that, Mitzi, because if you come out of this conversation of 90 minutes after and you determine that you don't know what you don't know, that's what I want. Because she has to go back and she has to talk to these people. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to find out from this conversation in 90 minutes, what you don't know and what you need to find out so that you can actually determine what is the supernation, how do you message it in a way that's relevant. Because let's say Mitzi found out that loss of sales is way higher a dollar ring and a bigger issue in terms of expensive issue than not being able to upsell and leaving money on the table or cross sell. So your messaging would completely change, wouldn't it? And your approach and your marketing and your elevator pitch. All right. So much.
Very helpful. Thank you.
All right. So we'll do one more. Crystal.
Terry, it's an email, Terry at Beltran.
Terry, is her camera on?
Yeah, it is. Can you see me?
All right. What,
all right.
So what is the industry?
Well, I had picked so many, so let me see which one. I said beverages.
Okay, beverages. And so what is the 3 problems that you could help them with that are so expensive?
Creating their persona for who they need to target, and building their sales strategy. And then making sure that they go through with their tactics and build their sales.
Sales. Okay. So I would love it if you could think of 3 distinct ones. So the sales is, I wonder if it's the same problem. So let me just ask you this way. The target persona, if they don't have a target persona, what is the consequence? What is the expensive problem that is the actual problem?
Yeah, they're throwing money out there without really knowing who they're targeting, without doing the right.
So is it ROI? Is that the real issue?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because
an investment because they're putting their money out there.
Exactly. They're spending it and nothing's coming back. So one is they want to improve their ROI and their ROI sucks. Then the second one you said is the sales strategy. What happens if they have a bad sales strategy? What is it that's not happening, or what's the cost?
The cost is they don't make the sales, they don't make the relationships happen with their retailers because their sales strategy where they're how can I explain? The salespeople are so different from the marketing people, unfortunately, and sales seems to want to do their own thing. So that's what I mean by sales strategy, is that really the structure of how their sales group is working is not fulfilling what we work so hard on in identifying a persona. So that's one of the things that.
So I wonder if that could be two, like I can see how, so I wonder if it could be 2 issues. One is that they're missing their sales targets every year. or they are losing market share every year against their competitors. That could be one.
Yeah. Or,
Right.
or they're not even making it, because in these cases, it would be a new launch of a new product. And if they're doing a new launch of the product and they're not really talking the walk, then their salespeople are letting things fall through the cracks. And what they should be doing is really following through so that launch is successful and the launch is not.
Okay, so then another problem, one of the third problem could be the lack of continuity between the launch and follow-up, so that but then the consequence ends up that they are losing market share, right? Or they're not feeling,
They're not being competitive.
right, and or they're not meeting their numbers. They
Right.
can't. Okay. So I like that. So I would go, and so the next step, you guys, is that you actually go and you ask at least five beverage executives or whoever would hire you about which of these three is the biggest problem that's costing you the most amount of money, that is the most persistent problem for you. And then once you ask that, then they're like, okay, well, it's this one. And guess what? That becomes your super niche. Do you see how easy it is, you guys?
Yep.
All right.
I
Okay.
have a question. Do you ask your current clients about the pain points, that you solve?
Yeah, you know what? I don't. I really try not to, because as I said, unless you're talking about something completely different, like it's a completely new service or product, I would not talk to existing clients, because I want to know what somebody in the market who's untainted by knowing me, loving me, working with me, actually knowing what I do. I want to test first of all, I want to find out what their problem is. And then I want to position myself with their words. The people that we already work with, if you're talking to them, if you do any type of work with them, it's because, or any type of surveying of them, it's because you want to know what they think of you and how you can keep them happier and how you can have them on longer and how you can cross sell other things. That's fine. But what I really want is for like just new perspective, fresh perspective in the market from someone who's not tainted by knowing you. I don't want them to like you, trust you. I mean, they have to have some level of familiarity with you, maybe from a past life, maybe through an introduction, because they will not tell you their pain if they don't know you. But you should be able to connect with enough people in the prospect space to be able to ask them these questions as an informative interview. And so there's so many nuances around this whole research that by itself is part of the magic and wonder of what we do with clients. But for now, for simplicity's sake, let's just say I don't recommend talking to existing clients. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the elevator pitch? We have one more question, right, Crystal? I think before I move on.
Yeah, one minute.
Yeah, sorry, I got it. How can I market to nonprofits who help individuals with employment training that will pay for the training? I'm waiting for TX Workforce to decide on making my academy a certified trainer with them, where they will pay for the training. How can I take my skills training to business who will pay? So I'm not really sure that. I think we can maybe try to take that up as one of the pitches that we can cover, like from an elevator pitch. But there seems to be like too big of a question here. How you can market to nonprofits is to, one, niche them down into what kind of nonprofit, and you're saying that they help individuals with employment training. And then you would have to find out what is their problem, and then how can you solve that problem. But Sharon, why don't you volunteer for the next portion, which is the elevator pitch portion? Okay, and then maybe we can start with her. All right, so let's get on to the elevator pitch portion, which is the niched elevator pitch formula. The niched elevator pitch formula is, you guys ready? You guys ready for this? And let me just check that I'm on the right page. The target that you help, here we go. It's the target that you help, plus the problem that you solve, plus how you help. And I would love it if you even added some results in there at the end. And I'll give you mine. So to enhance the effectiveness, I love to do this, add a statistic and the result of working with you. Okay. So the formula is target plus problem plus the how you help. So it's, I break it down to something really easy and I polish it. I love polishing it up by putting in a pain statistic and the result of working with you. Okay. So mine is really simple. It is that 3 out of 4 business owners, and keep in mind, my super niche is WBE. So I usually would say women business owners, 3 out of 4. And by the way, WBEs are certified. They're not just, they can't be just women. They have to have like certifications. They have to go through that certifying body. But 3 out of 4 business owners, let's say, never get asked for a card or their information when they introduce themselves to their prospects. Well, what I do is I fix what they're saying so that every time they open their mouth to say hello, it turns into a meeting request. And isn't that what you want? I want to disabuse you of the notion that an elevator pitch is a description of what you do. Nobody cares about what you do. They only care about how you can help them. So an elevator pitch is a hook. It's a hook to get a meeting. That's all it is. Now, since the pandemic, you know that I mean, for those of you who've been following me, I lost all of my income because I'm in Canada and I used to, speak for 60 minutes on the stage and close, 6 figures in the next 60 minutes off the stage. When I flew to the US and I didn't once have to pick up the phone, God blessed me that I got hired for conferences all the time and I never had to do any marketing and came the borders shut down and I had no income because all the travels were canceled, my events were canceled. So my funnel went kaput. So what did I do? I invested at a very high level to learn how to get prospects on LinkedIn. Well, guess what? Or on, virtual platforms. You still need your elevator pitch because you still need that one liner to be able to capture and hook them into a meeting, you guys. So I don't care if you don't think that you need your elevator pitch or that you haven't done it in a million years because you're too senior or because you haven't been with other humans for a long time, but it's still relevant because it's that hook. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. It's 12:38. So we'll go till 12:40 and I'm going to let you guys write down your elevator pitch in the formula. And then we're going to just continue to polish. We have a special guest appearance at 1 o'clock. So we'll give a little break for that guest appearance and then we'll answer any questions and continue to polish as long as we can. All right. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Go for it. Okay, guys, Who's ready? So this is a gentle space. Yeah. So Sharon, you're ready, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, my dear, go for it.
Okay. My elevator pitch is Covington's Consulting and Services provides consulting, training, and services in OSHA safety training, employment training, and construction final cleaning and janitorial. The problems we solve are joblessness, homelessness, and hopelessness.
Okay. Do I have your permission to polish?
Please.
Okay. So the target is who's the target in two? I know you already
I
told.
apologize. I left that off.
Yeah, I know who it is.
The target. Okay.
So go ahead.
The
So
target is organizations that help individuals become self-sustaining.
okay, so I need an industry. So you said nonprofits,
Nonprofits. Mhm.
but okay, so give me the category of nonprofits.
The nonprofit organizations that provide resources and shelter. So shelters, organizations that help ex-offenders, and organizations that help individuals become employed.
Okay, it sounds like those would be different, like sub niches. Do they all hang out together, like the nonprofits that do shelters and ex-offenders and reemployers? Do they?
Yes.
What is that governing body called of their umbrella?
More like a COC, continuing of care.
Okay, so as long as they have their own governing body, they have chapters, they have meetings, they have LinkedIn groups, like, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you can penetrate them,
Yes.
not just a one-off, that's fine. Okay, so then what is the number one problem that they have? Is they can't, they're looking for resources to help the jobless and the homeless?
Yes, their number one problem is helping people become sustainable.
Okay, so
They have the clients, but they aren't approaching them in a way that makes the person in need see how this organization can help them sustain. They provide different workshops and things like that, but this particular group of people are actually looking for something that will get them to work right away and
okay.
get them in a job that will help them be sustainable.
So if I were positioning your company to the COC umbrella of companies or umbrella of nonprofits, I would find something, a statistic around their pain that, 3 out of 4 or whatever, 70% of the COC clients refuse to take a job or can't take a job or can't stay in the job or are not self-sustaining even after a year. What we do is we provide training and guidelines around janitorial services to be able to reverse that trend. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Great. All right. Who's next?
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right.
Pamela is next. She has to go after this.
Pamela.
You just need to unmute yourself, Pamela.
All right, here I am. Thank you, Chella. Nice to see you. Yeah, so my elevator pitch is for an emerging leader program. And typically I am finding my success in the certified women-owned business space, of which I am one and where I met you.
Yes. So WBE, yes.
WBE, yeah. So my elevator pitch for the emerging leader program, which I'm just beginning, Growing, shall I just go? All right. Growing companies usually promote leaders from within, individual contributors who have technical skills, not leadership skills, yet their responsibilities have shifted to 80% leadership. I support these emerging leaders to become leaders in a 6-month cohort with 9 other emerging leaders so that they can learn from each other. I pre-test and post-test their suitability with an assessment that identifies the gaps for them to develop.
Okay. All right. Do I have to call it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I like the target is WBE, so that's clear. I help WBEs. And we need a pain statistic. So what is the problem? What happens when there is that gap?
They make poor decisions. They lose good individual contributors because they don't know how to optimize. They do other people's work. They don't give up their technical interests, so that they end up continuing to be an individual contributor and not really doing the work of being a leader.
So then what's the horror story? I want you always to ask yourselves this. What is the big consequence? What's the horror story at the end of this? What happens?
The story is that they end up being more, doing more damage than good.
Okay.
Because they lose people and the cost of turnover is significant. They lose engagement. The cost of poor engagement is significant. I can get those data points.
Yeah,
So $450 billion a year in the United States for lack of engagement.
So you know what, Pamela, I love that, but I think that there's even a bigger opportunity for you to scare the pants off of people with these numbers if they're not WBEs, but if they're certain industries. Because I know that especially in the tech space that you're talking about, maybe you say WBEs that are, tech firms, because those turnover numbers, because of the tech to leadership gap, are higher in tech companies. So I would, if I could dream, reposition you as addressing tech companies of some sort. Like it could be healthcare tech, it could be, telecommunications, but it could be media tech, like some form of tech. If you could position yourself and then find the statistics of pain because of the tech and leadership gap, and then speak to that, and then sex it up even more. I would love it if you could name a process, like how Staples has that Staples button, the easy button. Like there's no actual human that runs and gets your stuff and brings it to you. It's just all, a marketing gimmick. It's a brand. So what if you could brand, the gap process, instead of describing it like that longhand, if you could say, the quick close gap, whatever it is, that process where we get you to profitability or to stop the bleeding of the turnover within 3 months or 5 months. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
You've been polished.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next
Okay.
one is Deborah Laurel.
Hi, Deborah. Nice to see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Let's do it again.
Okay, this is very rough.
That's all right.
Okay, X% of employees leave organizations because their managers either don't know how to manage or do it poorly. It costs X amount to replace an employee. What I do is help HR managers stop the turnover by ensuring managers have the skills they need.
Okay. Do I have your permission to polish?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would love it if you could give me an industry that you want to double or triple in.
The tech industry.
Okay, so let's do tech. And then I would love it if you could position to a specific issue of what why they're leaving. So the manager doesn't know how or is managing poorly. So could we, I would love it if you could get more specific about doesn't know how to what, how to have a difficult conversation, how to do feedback, how to communicate the next steps, or how to hold meetings. I'm making it up, like you pick your how to, right? So then, or pick the thing that they do the poorest. And that's where your research would come in. Remember the previous step where we thought about the 3 problems that you could help solve? That's where you could flush this out. And then I like, you know, whatever the dollar to replace the person. I would put the pain statistic around the problem. So you remember how we said the managers don't know how to give difficult feedback. So did you know that, you know, 70% of tech employees leave their boss because of a bad review? What I do is I help train, you know, companies in how to do reviews properly so that they never have another employee leave because of a bad review again. Make sense? So I completely repositioned it. Now, you guys, like, buyer beware. I made this up. You have to go research it, right? I'm making all this up. That's the genius of playing here. I'm just playing in my sandbox. But if you take this home and you try to, you know, run a business and try to make money off of this, it may not work. I'm telling you, because that's what, you know, is the research part is there to mitigate that disaster of being wrong. Because as you remember, guessing is the worst way to figure this out. Does that help?
Wonderfully. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next.
Haley Robbins, you're next.
Hallie, how are you? Oh, you're muted.
No, I'm not. And now I'm not on. There we go. Hi, Chala. This is Dr. Hallie Robbins. So glad we talked last week. Thanks for letting me talk today. So I gave a presentation last week to an association of trial attorneys. Okay. And the Association for Justice has already led to some leads based on what we talked about. So here's a win, and here's a try at a new elevator pitch to go with. Okay, so I'm just going to read this off, just writing hot off the press.
Yay.
Have you ever heard it's just soft tissue injuries, but you look normal after you've survived a case, whether it's workers' comp or a car accident or a fall from a bridge? You and I know it's anything but just to be unjustly labeled and minimized. As a doctor, I specialize in traumatic body injury as well as traumatic brain injury. TBIs are often undervalued and even invisible or hidden when it comes to the medical legal evaluations that lead to better trial and settlement. So I am here to help you reveal the hidden diagnoses and the invisible conditions that will improve the evaluation as well as valuation.
Okay, awesome. All right, do I have your permission to polish, Hallie?
Always.
Okay, so is the target trial attorneys?
It's also the clients and patients as well as the doctors. So that's where it's different groups, and that's part of the niche marketing, how to focus on which group for which delivery.
So I would, first of all, do the research, and I would talk to each group separately and find out their most relevant pain, because they all have different problems, right? The person who had the injury has a different one. The attorney has a different one. The doctor has a different one, right? They all care about themselves to an extent. So pick one, pick whichever one that you want to go with, and let's do that one. Which group do you want to pick? So do you want to pick trial attorneys or the doctors or the patient to focus on? Who has the most amount of need and money for you?
The attorneys.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm like dying here. But by the way, I'm talking to a doctor.
I know, I was going to say, I'll help anyone also with voice recovery, because all of us are dealing with these rectangular universes. One of my nicknames is Hyoid Hallie, and I'll help you to recover your voice support for all of the times we talk, as
Okay,
well as listen.
that is really nice. Okay, so who did you pick? Sorry, while I was like wiping myself.
I figured trial attorneys and people who are doing the case evaluation and development.
So what did you say was their number one problem? Trial attorneys want to win, right? Okay, so could you give an example of a pain statistic? Did you know that 70% of trial attorneys are under or don't get paid as much or make less than or don't win the case? So I'm not sure what the pain is. Is it that they don't win the case because the injury doesn't look bad? Or is it that the damages that they sue for are underestimated because they don't have the proper diagnosis of the underlying issue?
They don't have the right diagnosis, or the symptoms are simply not put together. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's thyroid function or loss of your libido, those are all hormonal damages from an accident. People just don't think of it fitting together because they're not trained in it.
That's just lovely. Okay, so the trial attorneys, what happens to them when there's a misdiagnosis?
The case is undervalued and settled too quickly, and maximal medical improvement is determined prematurely.
There you go. So we'll put a statistic behind the trial attorney. The number one problem they have is that they get paid less, right? Literally, if there's a misdiagnosis. So if you can quantify that in some way of why that happens and what that number is, and you could just do that simply by talking to 5 or 10 attorneys and then trying to determine, you know, what was the case and how much would it have been. So you have to do a little bit of research about what a true diagnosis judgment would have been versus a quicker closed one that was misdiagnosed. So then you could literally quantify, and you know, if there's any lawyers on the call, their life is hourly, right? They're like every hour, every minute they charge for. So imagine if you put on the table what they would like, you know, what they would get from working with you, you've got them sold. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite, we're going to give a little bit of a break, but we're definitely going to continue to do this. We're going to give a shout out and a welcome to another doctor. We've got a lot of doctors here today. Yeah. Dr. Joni Liu, if you turn on your camera and your sound, she is joining us, believe it or not, from Mexico. Are you here, Dr. Joni? There she is, gorgeous. Hello, hello, welcome.
Hey, Chala. Yes, I'm a Canadian who escaped to Mexico.
I know, and you totally look tanned, by the way.
Oh yeah, I definitely took advantage of power tanning. There was no way to come all the way out here and have so much trouble and tribulation to get out here to escape from Canada. Yeah, I had to take full advantage of being tanned, you bet.
I love it. So you're sitting in Mexico. I am so thrilled to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell everyone how we met. So Dr. Joni and I, we worked together, and she's here to share some of the results that she got from, you know, her journey of doing all the steps that I'm teaching you. So first of all, how did we even meet? Do you remember? I know you.
Oh yeah, Chala and I were both speaking at NASDAQ. God, it seems like a lifetime ago when we were able to travel, right? So that was back in December 2018. And so we were both speakers, and we both did a 20-second ad for, well, in my case, it was for my book. I can't remember what Chala did yours on. So it was a really thrilling event to be at in order to speak in front of all these CEOs and entrepreneurs and specialist doctors. So it was a great experience. So that's how we met.
Yeah. And so what led you to hire me? What was the business problem you were solving?
It was actually attending one of these courses that you gave. Yeah, one of these 5-day challenges. And it came out really loud and clear, because it's amazing how many so-called business experts are telling people, oh yeah, you can find your niche by, just going into the internet and doing your research and not talking to anybody. And I did that for so long, and it just wasn't working. So when I found out that Chala was doing things really differently, actually going to talk to people, being brave enough to actually approach people and ask them questions, that really appealed to me. But it also took a lot of courage to do that, because, you tend to hide, right? You tend to think that you can do this all by yourself, but you really do need to talk to live people.
Yeah. And so tell me about the mindset around the investment.
The investment, I just knew that working with Chala was going to create results for me, and that I was going to learn strategies that I didn't have. I mean, Chala does have a treasure chest of strategies and tactics that could prove to be really important to your business. So, I mean, for me, I had 3 different categories that I was looking at. 2 of them were on LinkedIn. One of them definitely was not, because they're professional athletes. And I found out that the 2 categories that I was looking at, they didn't interest me at all. So that dropped off, and I went after who I really want to work with, which is professional athletes, because they are in a special category. Their careers are really short. They can really make a lot of money during that time, but for most people, most athletes, the average career is only 3 years. So for me, it's about prolonging that career so that they have the lifestyle that they want. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, tell us what you do with them, and you just did.
Yeah.
So I love that you went with everything in you and through everything you had at the research process, even though you were scared to death to do outreach, and you came away with the perfect conclusion. So take us through what the research is like, what that phase was like, and how you ended up with, what you ended up with.
Well, it was really important not to do cold calls. So what you're doing is you are approaching people that, your friends, colleagues, even former clients who might know somebody in that niche. And you just keep asking people, you just keep talking to people, and you finally get introduced to those people, and you start asking them the questions that Chala gives us. And we go through that process. And I really discovered quite a bit about what that market is really looking for. And it's kind of funny, because it started for me with talking to people who had kids who were aspiring athletes. And there was, I think it was a transformation, really, to go from there to realizing, okay, there are reasons why that's not working out for me, to finally getting really brave and going after the pro athlete.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So tell me about, and you were not new to coaching, like you had coaches before, and what had happened with that specific group that you were trying to reach out to?
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So I know that you had your heart on athletes, and I remember that there was a hesitation all of the prior coaching that you did in reaching out to and niching in the niche that was really in your heart.
Okay. I guess prior to working with Chala, I did have another coach and who did something similar to what Chala is doing, but it was about cold calling. So just reaching out to people that didn't know, and it was really hard. But the thing is that it gave me the courage to go to the next step with Chala, okay? And actually really talking to people because of her process, okay? So I had gone from being really scared stiff and cold calling to doing the way Chala has you do it, which is a lot more comfortable, still scary. But the thing is that you're growing your self-confidence as you're going. And I actually sold some packages as a result of, doing that research. Just going through the research conversation, I actually got some clients out of it. So that was nice. So we never actually got to the pitch. So that came later, but it was really a growth period, working with her during that 6 months, that's for sure.
Thank you so much. What is the biggest value that you're taking away?
The fact that I really have the courage to go out and talk to complete strangers now.
Yeah.
And have some really fantastic strategies in order to reach out to those people. So I've gone from cold calling to warm people to now I have the confidence to actually go out to people that I don't know. So but the thing is that I'm armed with strategies that make it feel like a warm call.
Yeah, I love it. And you have implemented your little butt off. Your Thank you so much for being here. So you guys, I want to extend the invitation to any of you who want that kind of transformation in your business and who wants to work with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my scheduler link. It is, and Crystal, you can put that down. It's repositioner.com/schedule. And please go ahead and book a call so that we can explore how I can help your business. And that's going to be the extent of my sales pitch today. So we're going to continue to polish until the 1:30. Now, are there any questions? Now, Dr. Joni's still here. So are there any questions of Dr. Joni? First of all, sorry, I let you go, Dr. Joni, but before you leave completely, are there any questions of her? All right. Thank you so much. All right. Who wants to go next?
We have Rennie next.
Oh, there is a question. How long was that process, I think? Or was there another question before? So, Anne, yeah, you're still struggling. And then, so Anne, maybe you want to go next after who Crystal said. And then Marilyn, how long was the process? I think you were saying, how long was the process of the research? It takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how quick you are. And some clients love that process so much that they continue to use it even after they graduate. So even after 6 months, because my programs are 6 months. All right. Okay. So yeah. So Crystal, who did you say was next? Oh, you're muted.
Oops. Rennie's next. He's ready for you.
Sorry, who?
Rennie.
Oh, Rennie, hi.
Hi, Chala.
Nice to see you. All right, go for it.
Okay. And I realized I used the word people instead of a specific target, but so I'll leave it the way it is right now. Okay. 9 out of 10 people never learned how to handle money powerfully, which creates consumer debt and no investments for retirement. I fixed that by eliminating the emotional blocks and providing the simple techniques and practices that lead to wealth, philanthropy, and a life of complete financial choice. And I donate 100% of my profits to the charity Shelter to Soldier.
Okay, a little bit of branding thrown in there. All right. Do I have your permission to polish, Rennie?
Yes, you do.
And I realize that I'm talking to a pro here. So, you know, this is working for you. Obviously, you're extremely successful. What I would love, if we were to redo this in my formula, and if I was working with you, I would focus it into an interest group. So golfers or
yeah, I've got podcasters, coaches, corporate trainers, authors.
So I would take one of those and take the biggest, you know, but yeah, so it doesn't have to be B2B, it can be B2C, and it doesn't have to be an industry, it can be an interest group. But I could do that because they have every different group has different issues around handling money. So for example, one group, if you're talking about entrepreneurs, maybe they're not, depending on the level, maybe they're not so worried about investments. If you're talking to maybe golfers and maybe they're an older crowd, maybe they're more worried about succession planning. Do you see what I mean? Like if I could dream, I would niche what you're saying into it's less generic and more around a group and their specific issue around, you know, that they can never retire. Why is it that because they don't know how to you know, get their company to a certain valuation. And that's what I do. So that's one potential, you know, brainstorm idea of one niche that you could have. Another super niche could be around another problem, like you talked about investing. Like one of my wealth advisor clients and I, we found the problem was with, let's say, divorcing women, and their problem was continuing their lifestyle after the divorce. So we niched her into that. You know, money is so broad that I think if you were to be able to sort of niche it down, you would have a little bit more differentiation versus everybody who says they know how to make you rich.
I got it. And so I would probably go for a group of either coaches or podcasters.
Great. And so what is their number one problem? Well, as far as I know, according to the International Coach Federation, their median global income for a coach, a certified coach, is like 20 grand. You know what I mean? So then you could speak to that. Did you know that, you know, an average coach makes, median is the middle of, you know, the extreme highs and lows, but you could get an average and it's pretty damn low. I mean, in Canada, that's pretty close to the poverty line.
Yeah.
So then what I do is I help get them unstuck in their thinking or whatever. And again, I would polish that, sharpen it a little by telling them, like picking one specific thing that you do around that. So is it the mindset? Is it actual systems? Is it that you teach them how to invest? You know, like pick one thing and get way more specific, and then they can totally understand what you do rather than this nebulous promise of richness. Get it?
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for playing. Okay, who wanted to go next?
Leslie Wallace.
Hi, Kel, there you are. Okay, so it's kind of a made up statistic.
Sure,
yeah, but 3 out of 4 IT project teams include members who come from high respect cultures that tend to defer decision-making to upper management based on cultural norms that result in delayed project progress and lowered innovation. I help IT project managers who struggle to communicate with their culturally diverse remote workforce by helping their teams become self-directed that lead to efficient and innovative decision-making.
Okay, so the problem is remote communication with diverse audiences?
Yeah, culturally diverse audiences that have a high respect culture.
Okay, what's happening? Are they pissing people off?
they're deferring decision making to their managers constantly. There's not that engaged agree to disagree back and forth to result in more innovative and effective decision making.
Okay. I love this. It's so specific. That's what I love about it, especially if it's very common and it's a big like dollar issue.
Yeah. And I've been doing research already, Chella, and that's how I'm discovering this.
This is great. Okay. Now let's open it up. Do I have your permission?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the way that I would set this up is, I like how you started with, I work with IT project team managers, and let's put the pain in the beginning. Did you know that, is it a certain specific, would it be wrong to say there are certain specific cultures that have a higher deferring? Because
Yeah,
it's like
I know what you're saying. It is very much based in non-North American European cultures. Like beyond that, this is a problem.
Is that right? Okay. So non-European and so so it's Asian.
Like South American, Asian, Indian, there's very, very high deference to decision making being done completely by the leader. Even though they're talented, they're resourceful, it's just a cultural norm.
Yeah, and in fact, I put this story, it's in the Malcolm Gladwell book, Talking to Strangers. It's the Korean Airlines.
Yes.
You know,
I'm very familiar with that. Yeah.
All of their planes kept going down, for those of you who aren't familiar, and it's because the pilots, because of the culture of deference, they just keep deferring. The co-pilots would never say, "Oh, I think you're flying back," to the actual, because of the cultural. And so they had, like, in many airports, they weren't even allowed to land because they had the highest crash rating in the world.
Yeah. So now in the IT project management world, this just slows down innovation and project progress. Those are the two main pain points.
Okay. So
and it's exhausting for the managers as well.
Yeah. So did you know that cultural, what is it called?
I would call it high respect culture.
Okay. So no, but the problem is the refusal to
deference. I would say deference to.
Yeah. Deferring means you're refusing to take the decision. So this is a decision-making issue.
It's a decision-making issue, yes.
Resides because of cultural differences, because of cultural norms. Okay, so you know that cultural decision-making biases or norms delay IT projects by 30% or 40%, costing on average $1 billion a year. Well, what we do is we do XYZ to help them train, blah, 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 blah. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm a team coach, or getting into that. This is a kind of aspirational, but this is what I know I can do.
Yeah, no, so to be clear, they really don't care whether it's group or individual. Like, you don't need to go into that.
Oh yeah.
Like just the category of what you do. Like, I train, I teach, I consult topics so that I can help you as an IT project manager to reverse that loss.
Perfect. I love that. So I don't have to get into all the team versus one-on-one. I coach on these specific areas.
Yeah, and remember, you guys, the shorter time it takes for you to tell people what you do for a living, the more money you'll make. The shorter your pitch, the more money you'll make. Okay. So let me just take any questions. Anne, I don't know if Anne's still on the call, but did you want to take a hack at it?
Well, I'm just really struggling with my industry because it's it's like an employee gift for morale. I can figure out, the stats are easy. 71% of employees are working from home since the pandemic. They're not going back anytime soon. How are you keeping them motivated? I get that part, but I'm struggling with why I need to go down to an industry, because I know, like you said, everyone goes for HR and whatever, but like everyone has employees. So I'm like,
yeah, exactly. It's like,
but I don't want 10 employees. I want 300 employees. So that's
the reason why you need, the reason why it's better to have an industry is because you can get into their world. And in marketing, you need 7 to 12 touches before somebody will buy you. And when I say touches, they need to see you, hear of you, be referred to you, and to see your logo 7 to 12 times. So what I would love is, now you could choose to not speak the industry in your elevator pitch. But if I could dream, we would let's pick an industry that has over 300 people, whatever the number is, that you have lots of contacts in, and that you would like to double your presence in. Okay. So name an industry that you'd like to double your presence in.
So I've had really good success recently locally with credit unions, but I don't know how you go after like national credit unions. But locally the credit unions have been very good.
Okay. So are they saturated, or is there room to grow with them? Is there more local or credit unions that you can sell to?
Well, I've probably got like the top 3 already. So I could go.
That's not one. So find one that you would like to double your presence in. And then, then let's think about what industries are suffering more from loss of employee morale. What industries have more at stake? Because some employees are like low-level employees that are working from home, and others are really, really high level. Like if you lose one, that's like, you got to replace them for at least 6 figures. So what industries have more high-value targets working, high-value employees working off in their homes? I got to think tech, or I don't know. So think about that. And then when you're in their world and all of a sudden you start saying, did you know that health or tech companies are losing blah, blah, blah number of employees because of, lack of engagement during the pandemic? Well, what we do is we send them a party in the form of, our chips. Makes sense? So
I think tech people have been working at home for a while, no?
Probably. Yeah. So pick one that makes sense for sure, but it's gotta be it's gotta be someone that they would really hate to lose. It's not going to be like, the accounting department. I'm not saying anything against accounting, but there's like high level, some like maybe consulting firms, but again, they usually work not from home. I don't know. Think through and see what you come up with. I know I didn't really help much there, but
so employees are fine. I just got to figure out the industry, right?
Yeah, it would be great. It would give you direction on where to go to market to them. Okay. All right. Okay. So you guys, we've got 6 minutes left. Is there anybody who wants to ask another question? I think I see one question. If we are normally agnostic, are you suggesting we customize our pitch to each industry? That's really hard. That's heavy lifting, Amanda. I usually don't. If you have to do that, go for it. But as a and I work with companies that have like 6 different niches, but they have teams of like employees that actually they spend money. They have a marketing budget for each different industry or each different sub segment. If you don't have that, then it's really hard for you to be able to cover all of them. And so for you to be developing different pitches, it means you need to be, your pitch should be your marketing plan. Like you should not be making a different marketing plan and throwing spaghetti at the wall every time you go into a new crowd. This should all be strategic. It should be, I want to get that industry. I'm going to go after them. I'm going to be in their world. And this is my pitch about them. And this is my website that talks to them. And this is my article, content that's all about them. So that's what I'd like to see. But yeah, of course, if you are talking to someone, you should absolutely be talking about their pain. Okay. So should you start with the statistic first in your pitch? I think so. I mean, I think that that starts the conversation off with an interest, especially if it's a scary one. Like, don't give them a statistic if it's like really low and it doesn't scare anyone. Yeah, okay. So, all right. So let me see. Is there any other questions that I'm not seeing, you guys? Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do everybody's pitch, but thank you so much for showing up and for being willing to take part in this and for turning on your camera and your sound if you did. And I'm really, really happy that you came. I'm available for questions. I'd love to, as I said, if you're ready to work with someone like me to figure out your next steps as a business and to grow. And thank you for being here. I'll stay on for the last 4 minutes for extra questions, and I'll just keep going through the questions. And feel free to, turn on your sound and let me know if you have any questions. So
Right.
Go ahead.
Some are asking about section 4, so I just put the answers into the chat. Of course.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yes, yeah, I did. I totally skipped it. So
Of course, I have a list of 10 people that want to all be polished. So unfortunately, we just couldn't get to everybody.
Yeah, we just couldn't get to them. But yeah, so I totally skipped section 4 because that's where you actually meet them. But we did kind of go through it in terms of where would you find them, and then of course you would find them at now virtual industry events, conferences, association meetings, LinkedIn groups, publications, podcasts, LinkedIn itself, and on Twitter. That's where I think you can go, and the steps to connect are there. You can join their events. And if you just choose an industry or an interest group that's self-gathering, it's really easy, you guys. There's your marketing plan. That is your marketing plan. You don't need to do any of the heavy lifting of trying to cherry pick people. All you have to do is say something relevant to them, and then they're going to follow you. You don't have to run after them. The other thing, for those of you, the faithful who have stayed behind, I'd love to gift you my book. So go ahead and download my book from this link. The book is called Gentle Marketing, and it is repositioner.com/gift. Am I saying that right, Crystal?
Gift would work, book as well.
Well, gift allows you to make an appointment if you want to talk to me. And yeah, the book is just the book by itself, but go ahead and get either one will work. Is it book or books? No, it's book, right? Yeah. And I hope it's gift and not gifts. Oh my goodness. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here and participating. And I can't wait to hear from you. And my team will reach out, and my team's here. Hello, hello. And they're going to reach out and they're going to ask you what you thought and what your next steps are and how we can help you. So thank you, and all the best. Bye, everyone.